incredible parents who saw that, and my dad was a blue-collar worker, very much sat in the square and didn't take risks, and allowed me to leave school at the age of 15, the day I turned 15, which was very exciting. And I started work, and his only condition was to start work in the public service, because he saw that as a very secure future for me. So hence I then spent 20 years trapped in the public service. And that's not to say that's not a great position for many people, but it wasn't for me. So I left there when packages were being offered, and I took a package and went from corporate job. Two of the things that I hold strongly as a claim to fame was doing the third runway at Sydney Airport. So anyone that's seen the movie The Castle, that was me. I was that public servant. And
so just to explain that, Jane, you actually were instrumental in relocating all these people.
Yeah, well, and we had that one person.
So it must have been a very emotional, stressful time.
Oh, it was awful.
I mean, that's an amazing thing to do as a young person.
It was, and you know, that beautiful man that was depicted in The Castle was exactly how he was. He was not moving off that third runway. He was not moving. And when we entered his house, he had every newspaper he'd ever bought in his whole life.
Oh my God.
Beautiful man.
But when you left there, amazingly, I mean, a 20-year career in public service, which has got to be the stodgiest thing you can imagine. Mind you, yours was a bit more exciting than that.
Yeah.
But you left there to do, of all things,
a donut king. I know. I went from corporate person in the city to pink uniform, runners, fondant in my eyebrows. My greatest memory was going to the bank after we'd started to sign some papers, and I'd had to get changed in the back of the room at the donut shop, and it smelled obviously like donuts.
Have you heard of Donut King, Joe?
I prettied myself up, ready for my bank, you know, had my suit, and I sat there and I put my elbow up on the thing, and I looked down and I had this big thing of pink fondant running down. I was like, so yeah, from public service to Donut King was a very, very big journey.
So what was your experience as a franchisee like after having, you know, the structure of public service? I guess there's a structure with franchising. But could you see similarities, or was it just like jumping into fondant?
Absolutely jumping into fondant and bubbling. No, there are no similarities to working in a safe environment, in a government sort of, and especially in those days, because the government was, you know, was more secure and affluent in those days, and you know, to go from that to private enterprise into your own business is like putting your finger in a PowerPoint.
What made you do it?
I think I just felt like I had something to do.
You can tell I'm in awe of this, can't you?
Yeah. I don't know, I felt like I wasn't doing anything. I felt like I wasn't contributing to society. I didn't feel like I was making a difference in the world, and it was really important to me.
So how long were you a franchisee?
3 years.
What made you leave?
My partner and I separated, so my advice to anybody who is in a long-term relationship, I was in a public service for 20 years and a long-term relationship for 20 years, and we worked together, and in 3 months we realised we didn't like working together. So it ended, and we had to keep the business for 3 years, so we had to work together for 3 years. So
after you left the franchise,
very hard.
Everybody got.
Oh.
But you stayed with Donut King, but you changed positions. What happened?
Yeah, well, I was one of the only, probably still am the only franchisee that went from being a franchisee to being a franchisor, because in that industry, I'm not sure how many people here may be either in that industry or know that industry, there's always that us and them between the franchisor and the franchisee, and it's a really big battle to try and stop that from happening. So to go from a franchisee to a franchisor is really, really quite unusual. So.
But what was your role as the franchisor?
I was taken overseas to open the Donut King and another brand that they had in London. Yeah.
And how long were you a franchisor?
Oh, well, with them I was just working for the franchisor.
Yeah.
So
how long?
Probably 1.5 to 2 years, yeah.
And that experience of being a
Yeah.
franchisee and then working for basically head office,
Yeah.
what do you think did that make you think, hey, this franchising thing is actually a pretty good idea as a business model? Did that come into your brain at that stage, or was that later?
No, I actually didn't. To be honest with you, and I will be honest, I don't know that I thought like that. I think I looked at it purely more from a branding perspective. They taught me about the importance of branding and the importance of, when you create a business, is having a concept and making it about that concept and not moving from that concept. And a lot of people who start a business get, from what my experience is that you start the business and then all of a sudden there might be something that you see off to your side and you think, well, that might be a good idea, I'll bring that into my business, and well, that might be a good idea and I'll bring that into my business. And before you know it, what you originally set out to do no longer really exists because it's confused. And I think that's what Donut King taught me.
Everybody that I know personally that has got to the heights that you have are massive risk takers. And one of the first biggest risks that you ever did was to break out of the public service.
Yeah.
And that in itself is even a greater leap than most people would jump from one business to another,
Yeah.
because
it's secure.
You know, it's secure,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
what most human beings
Yeah,
crave.
that's true. Yeah.
So then you jump from public service into fondant, Donut King. Then
don't forget the cinnamon, because they always got in your eyes.
Then you just decided that back into a corporate business, essentially, with the Donut King franchisors. Then you just said, stuff this, I need another challenge. So then, for some ungodly reason, you chose Noosa. Now, I think everybody here understands that Noosa is probably the hardest place to make a quid. One of my clients said, how to make $1 million in Noosa, you come with 20 million, and that's
spending.
the truth. So, first of all, how did you get here, and the day that you decided that this was the place, and what did you do? Jane, you've got to tell the story.
Okay, I went from Donut King, from London, came back to Melbourne, and I'm a bit of a long story person, so if I'm going to be taking too long, you have
I'll
to
shut you up.
Yeah, can shut you up. So I came back to Australia and I thought, okay, was in Melbourne, and then I thought, okay, I'm done now, you know, I've sort of learnt everything, and I didn't feel like I had any more to offer the Donut King. I'd sort of gone as far as I could, and I ended up moving, or having a girlfriend on the Gold Coast who knew John Collegia. I don't know anyone that knows John Collegia at Sanctuary Cove. He does beautiful work with diamonds, and he had a girl leave his store at the time, and it was around Christmas time or New Year's Eve, and he asked me to come and work for him, just do a bit of casual work for him, because he knew he could trust me. And within the first day of walking into a diamond store, and I'd never had anything to do with diamonds before, I sold a lot, and he was just like, well, you're not going anywhere, this is your next career. And so that was how it happened. And my belief is with selling is it's all about trust. You have to earn people's trust, and they have to like you. And it was no different to selling a donut, as far as I'm concerned, as it was to sell a diamond, because it's true. The price is different, but really at the end of the day, the principle's the same. So I worked with John for a long time, and then, to cut a long story short, a friend of mine introduced me to diamond simulants, and at the time I sort of thought, oh my gosh, no way, you know. And
Just to explain, sorry Jane,
Sorry.
A diamond simulant is a beautiful way of saying a fake rock, and most people, as soon as you say fake rocks, just recoil in horror, because there's such a stigma. And this sort of feeling that you've made it when you can put a massive rock on somebody's finger. And this is one of the most amazing things I find about Jane's story, is not only did she go into the diamond industry, legitimate diamonds if you like, but then went for another leap of faith into something that has a stigma attached to it that is almost unreachable to break somebody from that habit of thinking that a false diamond is not going to stuff up their social status. So there you go.
Oh, I don't know how to go on from that one. Well,
You got introduced to
it's hard
diamond
to
stimulants.
Yeah.
Stimulants.
And at first I thought, no, I was working for John and we were going to, like, we'd go to a Versace ball and he'd deck me out in all these beautiful diamonds and I'd be sitting at the ball and I'd be thinking, oh my God, it's beautiful, but I don't want to go to the bathroom because what if I lose one? You know, like one might fall out
How
of
are you
my
going to
ear.
lose one in the Johnny Love?
Well, it could fall out of your ear and then... And I didn't want to get up and dance.
I thought you might have been bedazzled, like they are in Essex.
No, and I just didn't feel right in these things because they weren't mine, and you know it was all lovely, but it was a false sense of who I was. And long story short, I had 2 years there. It was wonderful. I got to see how beautiful diamonds are, and I got to see, you know, the beautiful side of diamonds where they're used for some beautiful things. I also got to see the other side of diamonds where they're used for maybe not so beautiful things, and one of them was about that status, and why is one person better than the other because they have a diamond? Why is one person better than the other because they have a bigger house? For me it was about the journey of learning that, you know, really at the end of the day, all women, no matter who, and all men, if they want to buy their women beautiful jewellery, should be able to have access to beautifully fine jewellery without feeling like they're lesser than because it's not a naturally mined diamond. And the way my journey came about with that was to be in the industry and to feel it. But at that point I was 40 or 39, I had lost everything in my life. That's a long story, and I had nothing. Okay, I had no investments. I was really in a place where I had not dealt with everything really well. So my journey was more about, my boss said to me one day, Jane, do you know that only 9% of women around the world buy our jewellery? Now that's a beautiful thing for a business owner. 9% of women. We knew who our market was. We knew who to target. We were targeting the wealthiest people around the world who could come in and spend $150,000 on a beautiful pink diamond. It was beautiful on that level. But he's as he said, 9%, I drove home and I thought, I'm the 91%. I'm the 91% of people that go to work every day with my Michael Hill jewellery on, and I take it off and I put it in the cupboard because I'm not allowed to wear it, and I put the beautiful jewellery on, which I'll never own. and then a few days, a lot of events happened within these few weeks, and then one day I was putting the window in at the store and this beautiful woman walked in and walked past us, and she was pushing her pram, and she looked up at me, and I was putting the jewellery with the diamonds in. And she looked up at me and she looked back at the jewellery, and you know, we just had this amazing connection. And I don't know how many people in their life have had that moment when the light bulb goes off or a big bolt of lightning.
Apparently Oprah has them all the time.
Oh, okay, good on you, Oprah. Comes in the window. That was mine. And so when I'm 39, I don't know where I'm going, I'm not married, I don't have children, I haven't felt like I've really done anything in my life. I don't feel like I've made a difference, and all of a sudden, there it is for me. I am going to go and I'm going to create something that 91% of the women in the world are going to feel fabulous wearing, and that was the journey.
So coming back to you walking down Hastings Street,
Yeah.
You had 25 quid in your pocket, $25 in your pocket.
Yeah.
What the heck? I mean, that was an aha moment, if ever I've heard one, is that you thought $25 in my pocket, you did something, and then all of a sudden you started this empire in Hastings Street. What happened?
Well, my partner, the original founder of Secrets, that was in it till about 2004 with me, he had enough money for us to open the shop, which, you know, in honesty, our first 2 checks bounced with Westpac. We're still with Westpac, they love us. I had nothing. I could only bring myself, my inspiration, my passion, my belief, my determination, everything that I believed about this product, and my humility because of where I was, you know. So I was walking down Hastings Street. We were due to open the shop. Like, he had enough money to buy the product. We had enough money to open the little store. We had no more money. We had no money for marketing, no money for anything. So I think he had ended up with, I think it cost us about $80,000 to start the business. And I, as Di said, had that amount of money, and I was in the worst place I could possibly be. I was in the highest level of doubt that I could ever have had in my life. I felt like I was faking it. I was walking down the street. I remember I had a green dress on, and I'm looking at all these beautiful people in Noosa and all these gorgeous businesses and going, you are the biggest fake on the planet. And all these people know it. And so I thought I would just have to say to Dietmar, I can't do this. You know, that's where I was in my life. And I sat outside the shop and I walked over to the news agency and I saw Richard Branson's book, and it had just been released, Losing My Virginity, and I went, it was $15. I looked in my wallet, I had $25. I went, well, if I do that, I'll be able to have enough money to go to Aromas and have a glass of wine. So I bought the book, and I had enough money for 2 glasses of wine. So whatever that was at the time, and I read the whole book from whatever time that was. It was after lunch, it was definitely after 12. I didn't have wine before 12. And I read that book and it changed my life, and it changed everything about what I felt about myself, and it gave me the strength and the belief and the inspiration to go forward.
But the first 2 years were pretty tough. Did you ever have a day off?
No.
How much did you get paid every week?
For the first year, I got paid $200 a week. Yeah.
I mean, that is in itself is something unbelievable, because a lot of people, especially, I hate to say the younger ones, the ones that want it all now, they would not in their wildest dreams think of slogging their guts out 7 days a week for $200 a week with no secure future, and no hope of maybe getting more than $200 a week. And you know, and Jane did this, which I think is absolutely amazing. But how did the franchise thing come about?
Well, if I could just go back to the $200 a week, if that's okay, because I knew when we started Secrets I wasn't going to make it about the money, because when you make it about the money is important, and everything that Trevor said here tonight, congratulations to Trevor, I just want to say, what an amazing man. Every single thing he said here tonight was completely true, and the money part of it is really important. You have to be able to focus on the money, you have to be able to understand it, because it's really such an important part of your business. But the more you make it about the money, the more the money won't come. I don't really know how to explain that on any other level. Is that, yeah. You have to make it about what it's about. You've got to make it about your belief in it, and you've got to be determined to put everything that you have into it. You've got to focus on that. So that's what I did. So I probably didn't even know that I mean, I did know I was getting $200, but I didn't need anything because I was at work every day. But the franchising came about by people immediately, because I put a branding situation into the business because of Donut King, and that's what I learned from Donut King, is how to brand your business, how to make it specific, how to make it about what it's about, and how to connect with people on that level. So people would come in and say, oh, this is an amazing business. Is this from overseas? Who does your marketing? Who does your advertising?
Who does it?
Yeah, we did. On a shoestring with you know, just our heart and soul in there. And so people started to want to become a part of it. And it was a really big decision back then. I said to Dietmar, I don't want to do anything with anyone else until I felt like we'd built enough secure, you know, a block for other people to stand on. Because if we were going to tip, I didn't want to take anyone with us, because that is not something I could live with. So, you know, it was really nice to build that block for a couple of years, and then people just came. You know, we never advertised for a franchise in the early days. People just came. They fell in love with the business. They resonated with the business. Women understood what it was like, and they wanted to be a part of it.
Do you think that your marketing skill was something that you've always had? I mean, marketing and branding are two of the biggest things, you know, to sort of secure a company as far as the public's concerned. Do you think that you've always had that marketing nous, or did you learn that?
I don't know that you ever learn it. I think it's, like what Trevor said, you have to move with it, and you have to be prepared to change with it. And I find marketing a really, I don't want to say obscure, but a really difficult thing to understand as to what is right for your business, what works. And I think, you know, again, you've got to follow you, and you've got to follow your gut, and you've got to say, this is what works for my business. Our business survived on word of mouth. And isn't it funny? Everybody wanted to keep it a secret, and yet it grew from word of mouth. So
Jane said that I could ask her anything, but one of the things that we were talking about, you know, and we've discussed this in this room before, is that when you are a business owner, a small business owner particularly, you feel very isolated and you can't believe that people have had similar experiences to you. But one of the things that did happen to Secrets is that you got to something like 29 franchises, and then the GFC hit. And when you think of something which is still regarded as a luxury product, it doesn't matter what price point it is, jewellery is a luxury product. What happened to Secrets in the GFC?
Well, it was interesting because we are hit very heavily by gold. So we were more hit by, because the GFC for Australia hit a lot later, certainly in retail, because of some things that the government did and didn't do. And so we didn't really feel it till, you know, quite a way after the GFC hit the world. But we had previously felt it because we set our margins, because it's a very complicated business, and I won't go into bore you with that, but we set our margins for gold to be at a certain level and the dollar to be at a certain level. And we got gold and the dollar had always moved up and down, but they always paralleled, so we were fine. And then in 2007, gold started to climb, and the dollar held, and then all of a sudden the dollar plummeted, and against everybody's expectations, and certainly all the major analysts. So we got hit very heavily, and then there was that, you know, very difficult decision of what to do. So
what did you do, Jane? What was your strategy to survive?
We cut the loss and left our franchisees to make the profit, and I still to this day think that was the best thing to do. But gradually over a period of time, our franchisees no longer could make the money that they were used to making, and I think that was difficult for a lot of them. For me it was easy. You roll with the punches, and you're grateful for your heydays, and you pull in, you know, when you have to, because as a business owner you have to do that. But franchising is very different, because in franchising you have someone above you. So when you look at businesses and you look at the ability to survive and to be tough in that, they have someone to blame. And I'm not blaming the franchisee, but by nature...
They're like staff, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy for them to go, oh, it's your fault, you know, and that's a very difficult part of franchising. No matter how hard you try not to have the us and them, it is a part of it's the nature of the business.
One of Trevor's points was that you've got to recognise what it is that maybe your competitors are doing. Do it, make it better, but also be a trendsetter, be a leader.
Yeah.
And that immediately reflects what I believe Secrets is all about. First of all, who chooses the designs? How do you follow trends?
Yeah.
Or not follow trends, set trends. And how do you sort of stay ahead of the game? Because this is there's nothing to do with jewellery. This is just a fundamental part of business.
Well, I think it's easier for us because we, in the industry, are influenced by your Tiffany's, your Cartiers, your Bulgaris. They're the major headliners, like in fashion. There are majors that headline fashion, and for us it's those. The mainstream jeweller finds it really, really difficult to be inspired by that because they've got really big stones, and so the investment's really, really high. So we can create a beautiful, 3.5 carat design at a very low price. So we can follow those trends and add on to those trends and be a part of those trends.
And do you have to go and see what other people are doing? Do you travel?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, we look at Europe, we look at Asia, and they...
Can I come?
I'm going in June.
Oh, so high. But also one of Trevor's things was, technology, keeping up, blah, 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 blah. I mean, what we do now in our business is compared to 2 years ago, 5 years ago, it's so different.
Yeah.
Have you got an online presence?
We do, yeah. We have online presence and we have very big social media presence as well. And we're learning every day. Every single day. It's
one of the things that we experience in our industry, and it's not just peculiar to ours, is that anything that's online, it represents competition, or it can be interpreted as competition. So if you've got franchisees, and you've got an online presence, how do you justify the online presence to the franchisees, and how do they accept that you could be perceived as their competition?
Well, we see online as another store. So if they've got competition, then they could see their other store as competition. So online is run as another store. Online for us, and this was a really, really difficult decision for us to have an online presence because of that, because our first consideration is them and their profitability and how it works for them. So it took us a really, really, really long time to work this one out. If you're not online, if you're not in social media, if you don't clicks and bricks, you have to have both. You cannot survive with one. Online, there will be online businesses that will survive just as online, but most online businesses are now starting to find a way to get into some...
I had to ask you what clicks and bricks is. But
yeah, I know. Clicks and bricks. Does everyone know what clicks and bricks is? Yeah. So clicks is online and bricks is retail space. Yeah. So, sorry.
No, that's cool. I love it. But I'd like to have clicks and bricks.
Yeah, look, we worked really, really hard. So all the money that we use with online, or get from online, it goes back into promoting our stores online. So for us to say, well, we'll have no online presence and we'll have no online shopping is detrimental to the brand and to their business. So.
And Jane, one of the biggest things that always causes everybody in business consternation, I've always said if it weren't for clients and staff, I'd love my job. How do you get a good team? Like, you've got a great team. How did you get a great team?
I had to learn a lot about myself to get a good team, and I had to learn. I was asked this just recently in an interview with one of the magazines, and she said, "How do you manage people well?" And I said, "You manage yourself first."
That's a very, very, very interesting and insightful thing, in my opinion, is because most people, we talk to people like this all the time, that they constantly complain about their team, or you can't get good help these days, and all those cliche sayings. But the thing that I thought was amazing about you is that you never pointed externally. You straight away said that if it works for me, if I can answer to myself, if I can fix myself, if I can make myself better, then the team will follow. Is that sort of how you've structured it?
Yeah, I think, when you're a leader, you can't lead. You have to lead by example. So you can't have a bad day. You can justify it all you like, but you can't. You have to be that person. So whatever you're putting out there as a leader is what you're going to get back. So when you put out a certain level, you're going to get that level back. And we all want to make it someone else's fault, but it isn't. We've chosen this position as for me as a managing director, I chose that position. It's not my team's fault that I'm in that position. It's mine. And the thing that I've learned is to manage your ego, and it's been a hard learned lesson. And I didn't know this in the early days, and I'm always happy to put it out there. My ego was really put out by people who could do things better than me because I was completely threatened by them. And I look back at that and think, oh, that was just awful. But that's where I was, So the more I learnt about myself and the more I managed my ego and the more I was able to look at myself, the better my business will get. And it does.
I think that what Trevor was talking about, with service, is that I think that a lot of people that are in leadership, in inverted commas, positions, are threatened by people that they think may be better than them.
Oh, absolutely.
And what they'll do is that they'll aim for the lowest common denominator rather than trying to live up to what they're seeing. But you touched on spirituality a little bit, and to me, the first time I met you, you seemed to be a born counsellor. Do you see yourself as a mentor or a counsellor in any way?
Oh no, I see myself as someone who's willing to look at myself and willing to be honest with myself.
But you share that as well, which I think is the other thing.
Yeah.
There's one way to be introspective, but the other thing is to share it with the people that matter to you.
Yeah.
Do you think that you give that out to your staff?
Oh, absolutely. I think, you know, we have honesty on the table in our company across the board, and that's...
Is that including finance?
Finance, honesty?
You talk about financial stuff?
Well, I allow my team to know what I believe is good for them, because there are some things that are not good to share. Yeah. No, really, they just don't need to know, and it could worry them on certain levels. But I think it's always important to know what people need to know, like what level. But it's really about having honesty with each other, you know, and a lot of times we forget to do that with our team, you know, and we just talk really openly and really honestly, and it seems to work, you know, and people can share how they feel, so they're not scared of the boss, you know, they're not scared of saying they don't believe in something about the business. They're not scared to come forward with what they believe might be a really good idea, and let me tell you, they've framed my business in such amazing ways, because I'm not scared to hear it either.
I think that's another one which is incredible. I mean, there's such a parallel between what you're saying and what Trevor said tonight. It's unreal. But, I mean, the fact is that you can get so much from the shop floor, so to speak.
It's the first thing we do.
But, you know, the scary part about this story is that you jumped from one safety net, out of a safety net, into, you know, dark waters, survived that, you know, completely extended yourself beyond measure. Now you, in most people's opinion, you probably conquered the jewellery industry. Can you see yourself in this industry or in secrets for the next 5 years, 10 years, or have you got something else that you'd like to do now?
I think, you know, there's definitely a rebirth of secrets. We've moved more from a franchise network to a company store network, so that's our next step now, is to move out there, and it's a lot easier in a company store network to move things through conceptually. It's a lot harder to run, but that seems to be our journey. One of the things I've learned in franchising is that a lot of businesses are not necessarily easy to model in the franchise world. Services and food, definitely, but this is very complex. It's a very complex business, so a little bit more different. But I do see myself for the next 5 years, because I feel like there's a lot more to be done, and we were just talking before about if it's not complete, it's not complete, and I'm not complete, and I've wanted to run away quite a few times, and I've even run really fast, but it's not, I've still got more to do, so I will be doing this for a while, but it's about then looking at what is my role in Secrets now? So am I still going to be managing director, or do I find a CEO who can run the business better than me, and then I move into areas that I think I can influence the business? That's the next big step, and that's always, you can't do that till you're ready. It just doesn't work.
Well, Jane, honestly, to me, you know, you're an inspiration, and I think that everything that you do is a total illustration of what the mentors are trying to impart to their mentees. And I think that everything that you've said tonight, I hope that, you know, what everybody's heard tonight is going to make them suddenly realise that there is a massive future in business, but more importantly in Noosa, and you are a total reflection of the talent and the inspiration that we can get from this town. And I want to say thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you. I'm very humbled. Thank you for the opportunity.